Oh, we are live now. Okay, today's a special podcast. For this, we usually just do videos, but and normally we do the podcast on the other channel, We're in Nazarene. But today's a follow-up to a video we did 3 years ago, I think it was.
Almost 4 years now.
Almost 4. Wow.
Yeah.
It's great what you can repress when you really want to. Yeah, we did a video on politics and film, so I thought it'd be quite good to come back to it some years down the line about what's in politics and film, because we're both. It's been 4 long years of politics and real life. So he's SGS asked to become Bulgarian troglodyte. So you can find a link to his channel in the description of this video. I made sure I put it in before we started, so I wouldn't forget about it. So hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah,
it's great to be here. Last time we did like specifically on the podcast on political propaganda films, so now we are maybe gonna talk about politics more generally, I guess.
I think you watched it because I intentionally did not watch it.
I didn't watch it now, but I just have a really good memory for these type of things.
All right, yeah, no, I was like, I made notes, but I did not watch it. I was like, I made notes for just in case we dry up a little bit. But yeah, I remember because the reason we did this is you were talking to me and you're saying basically your political opinion has changed a lot over those years from where we did the video to what you are now. So I thought it'd be quite good to talk to you now because your viewpoints are a bit different now than they were then, because you're in your 20s and people's opinions change a lot in their 20s. Really, is that correct?
Yeah, so back then I was more of a kind of a right-wing libertarian type with a little bit of that kind of anti-woke nonsense, but not to the level of the Trump idiots and stuff like that. But
yes,
but because I was still like, even when I was right-wing, I was pro-immigration, I was pro-gay rights and pro-women's rights and stuff like that. But I was just kind of tired of the identity politics, and then like I was very much for free speech, and I still am. But those were more the reasons why I was a bit of that kind of right-wing anti-woke type of person back then, but I'm not so much now, and now I'm more of a lefty, but I still kind of retain that libertarian side to me, that I'm very anti-establishment and anti-state, and I don't like believe in any political parties or any politicians because they are all sociopaths basically. And then when it comes to real politics, I usually just vote for the lesser evil, the party that is lesser evil to me. But I think in the end, people who want to be in power, they are always evil basically.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the anti-woke thing was kind of normal at a certain point we did the last one because it was so pervasive. It was like, I think people who, I'm in the left, and I didn't like the woke stuff either. It was like, this is too much. This is going too far. But people have used that rather than just saying, "Oh, we need to correct this." It was like, "Oh no, it's all evil." And it's like, no, there's good things, there's bad things. There's always stuff requires like delicate handling. But because we've got political people who, as you see, are kind of selfish and, sociopaths, they just follow what's the headline, and it becomes like black and white instantly, and it's like, so now that's allowed the return of Trumpism and all its horrific implications.
Yeah, but these days I only use the word woke when I'm making fun of conservatives, because I am pretty woke, at least to these people. But at the same time, I think there are some criticisms that we can make towards what we can call wokeness, especially I think as a political strategy, it was probably a mistake to go all in with the identity politics. And again, we should maybe focus more on like working class issues and like economic issues and making people's kind of material reality better rather than focusing on the identity politics. But then we could have the gay rights and women's rights, etc. on the background, and obviously we should focus on those two. But as a main thing, if we just make working class lives better, I think those people would also have less resentment for immigrants and gay people, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're actually fairly much in agreement. This one is like, it's not going to be that controversial because I kind of agree with you. It's like, I think basically the woke thing went too far and it was politically not a good idea, some of the stuff they were doing. And I could see from the off that you've known the working classes and that's not going to work. That's just not going to work. They're going to vote against you at some point. And it's just, I don't really use the word woke very much. I never did. I always thought it was annoying for when the left was using it, and it was even more annoying when the right were using it against the left because it was such a simplification. But it's just a process. But now I think they kind of, what we thought was woke is now gone to the right, and now it's like the Trumpism, and it's just as extreme and just as silly and simplistic. So we're probably going to get a backlash towards that pretty soon as well, because it's like the populist thing is just like, I really see a lot of people going, I don't like that. That's too far. That's not common sense stuff. But people are
Trump,
stupid.
That's the problem. But the Trump fans are just like, they are cult members, so Trump could kill innocent babies in front of them, but they would still love Trump. So they are so insane. But of course, there are some more moderate voters who just, I want gas prices to go down and inflation to go down. But I don't mind. Let them be racist and stuff. But the gas prices are more important. But I think most Trump fans are just absolutely insane cult members, and it's becoming clearer and clearer now.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. It really is not a good thing. I mean, the thing I was thinking about was, have you read the history of the Germany from 1740s? Someone Schreiber did it. It was written at the time, talking about the rise of fascism in Germany, where it started out as a small cult that no one took seriously, which is Nazis, and they just slowly but surely, not many people agreed with them, but they just found ways to insinuate themselves and create more and more division and create more insanity until people were following them. And the same thing happened with the communists in Russia. The communists were not a big party in Russia during the revolution. No one liked them very much. They just found ways to get in. So the extremism became the main thing rather than a more moderate, let's solve the problems kind of politics. That's just something human beings seem to have a weakness for. It's like, we don't do common sense. We just do like villagers torching the castle type of politics. We just like the extreme. And it's like, we don't really pay attention to all the kind of subtle stuff that you need to pay attention to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think big part of it is just that people, like now, like when everything is getting more and more expensive and it's harder to find good work and people cannot buy homes anymore and their just economic realities are worse and worse, then the resentment keeps piling up, and then you start finding that these people start believing in this right-wing radical stuff because they don't have anywhere else to go. And like we kind of talked about a bit earlier, that the left has partly abandoned the working class, so then these people think that the left doesn't represent them and that Nigel Farage or Trump or the AfD in Germany, that they will fight for the working class, even though obviously they won't because they are in the pockets of the billionaires and stuff. Yeah.
They loathe the working classes. Yeah, I mean, some of it is the left's fault for just having contempt for their own people, and it's like, that's not going to work. But you could see these arguments get made after the crash in 2010. It was like, we have to be careful of this. And nobody gave a damn. Ultimately, nobody cared about it. And it's like, well, this has been a decade and a half in the making. It's not just an overnight thing. It's like, it's been warned about again and again and again. In Britain, we had austerity, which destroyed communities all over the country and just was just a disaster. And basically, Labour spent a decade fighting each other rather than actually focusing on what the people needed. And everybody noticed it. Because even though in Britain, you had the Conservatives who were useless, but Labour were so up themselves, they actually never showed an actual opposition for a whole decade. I think people notice that in America the same, and in Germany, all the other countries, they notice when the people that might be representing them do not represent them. It's just something that's going to cause resentment. It's going to cause like extremists to become, seen as the only option.
Yeah, the left isn't that good at building alliances because there's this idea of kind of moral purity that we all need to agree on everything to be together, but we need to start building alliances with people that maybe don't agree with us about everything, but who agree with at least about something, and we can fight together against the neoliberal garbage that this world is currently.
Yeah, but basically, the right actually tend to compromise with each other a lot better than the left do. The left are really a bit vain, and we must not. It's pretty much like the Monty Python movie, like Life of Brian, the People's Front of Judea, or the Judean People's Front, and they're fighting over the name, and it's like, that's the left. There's times that's just the left being like insane. It's like, surely you have other things you may be doing rather than this. There's lots of problems you're ignoring.
And of course, the US, for example, just has such an awful political system that you have only two parties that can realistically have power. And obviously they call Democrats communists there, but the Democrats are actually a center-right party, and then Republicans are far-right party. Basically,
yeah, that's
they don't even have a left-wing. Yeah, they don't even have a left-wing option there. So.
Yeah. I mean, I look at the Democrats and thinking, I'm to the left, but they're not like me. They're really not like me at all. It's like their idea of left wing is completely different.
Yeah, of course, they have some individuals who are more left, like Bernie Sanders and AOC, but for the most part, like the Bidens and Barack Obamas and stuff, they are more like centrist and center-right people.
Yeah. It tends to move between center-right and center, depending on who's in charge. But there's no way you could say that Biden was a lefty, and like Kamala Harris again, she's centrist, and a lot of people just couldn't. It was like, what's the difference? And, actually, when you look at the American election, most people did not vote. I thought the country did not vote. They were so burnt out by the whole thing. It's like, well, that tells you a lot about the country, about how the people view, politics. Is like, what's the point? They're going to screw us over anyway, no matter what.
Yeah, and Kamala Harris just talked about the middle class. She didn't talk about working class on her campaign, but if she wasn't lefty, she would have talked about the working class, and even obviously with the foreign policy, she's just, that's basic American, like war-obsessed stuff, and obviously pro-Israel and stuff. So
you'd think after Trump won in 2016 from the working class, you'd think they'd actually focus on that. It's like, it's an obvious area to go to, and they never. And it's like, why did you miss something so obvious? So I'm just hoping the Trump thing burns out with Trump, because you don't see the people coming following Trump, like J.D. Vance's. No one likes them at all. Everyone just looks at them like, ugh. So you can hope that this is. Plus, the thing is, once we get back to the midterms in America, Trump has a lot less power, because he's like, that's when they start looking towards the next election. So he's got a kind of limited time to do his damage.
Yeah, but he's already done so much damage.
I know.
In 2 months. So, like, basically, he has destroyed all the alliances with Europe and stuff.
Oh yeah, and he's destroyed his own economy. Like the financial guys who supported him are having a fit.
And RFK Jr. is an absolute nutshot, like, ivermectin and anti-vax.
Yeah. And that's not even starting Elon Musk.
Yeah.
It was just like almost a parody of a Bond villain at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of want to laugh and cry at the same time when you look at the US. It's just so insane. Yeah. So you kind of start laughing in a macabre way, but then at the same time, it's so sad.
Yeah, I mean, look what they're doing in Gaza just now. How much support. And it's like, I am not like I have a complicated view of Israel-Palestine thing, but what they're doing to Gaza just now is horrendous. It's just like a total war crime. And it's like, yes, there's lots of problems, and yes, there's some in Palestine who would do exactly the same to Israel. There's got to be something more complicated reason rather than let's build hotels in Gaza. It's like, bloody hell. Did you see that video, the AI video with Trump thing praised?
Yeah, it's absolutely grotesque.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like everything's so mad at the moment. It's like, oh, you have a viewpoint on something that's not someone else's viewpoint. It's like they go mad. And it's like it's just a viewpoint. No one's going to listen to anyone on the internet anyway. Why is it so mad?
It's absolutely insane that they are now deporting students who are pro-Palestine. So basically, people who don't want innocent children being bombed to death. So, yeah,
there was that actress from Scream who said something that was pro-Palestine. She got fired from Scream because she was a bit anti-Semitic, and it was like, I read that thing. It was not anti-Semitic. It was just like, don't butcher people. It's like, I don't quite. It just seems like it's like people are allowed to say extreme stuff just for the sale of it, and no one's calling them out. And like, that's insane what you're saying. But if you look back at history, it's happened all the time. People are just cowards. They will not call out people for saying things that are absolutely indefensible. It's just life, really. It's just that we human beings are. We're kind of cowardly.
Yeah, the history books won't be kind to these people.
Yeah, they never are. I mean, it's like you read history books and you think, well, hopefully we'll never make this mistake again. And then a few years later, it's like, yeah, we've done it again.
Yeah.
If only people could learn to read.
Yeah, it's crazy how like the last few decades seemed like that we made so much great progress, but now we are just going back with all the far right stuff all over Europe and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of that was a reaction to failures to the left, but some of it's reaction of people who feel they've been left out of because we've gone so far the other way, and now it's like, oh, this is my revenge. But it's like, but if you look at history, usually when you go to extremes the other way, it usually fizzles out or becomes a mess. It's not like revolutions never really brilliantly organized or helps people. It's always tends to be a mess afterwards because people can rush to the extremes. Maybe you look at France after the revolution, when they killed their king, it was a complete mess. He ended up with Napoleon. It's like revolutions is never really a good idea. It usually ends up in tragedy, and I think we can see that in like situations there already. It's like, plus the thing is, because Trump's there, like, Europe's starting to come together a bit more now, and it's like, okay, we can't rely on America, so it's having an impact on him in a way that he probably did not expect. And Canada and Mexico's like, okay, give us tariffs, you'll lose out. It's like nobody's. I think he thought people were going to bow to him, and they're not going to bow to him. And basically, the people he's trying to impress, whether it's China and Russia, just look at him and I mean, it's pathetic. So it's like, it's not working out exactly the way he's hoped for.
Yeah, the good thing about history repeating itself is that it will always get better as well. Yeah, it gets worse first, but then it gets better again.
Yeah, it's a cycle, and people kind of it goes in different ways. I mean, the funny thing is, in Britain at the moment, we had a bad 2010s. We had a horrible 2010s with Brexit and all that stuff. Well, the rest of the world was recovering from the crisis. We had a terrible time of it before the infighting, and now it's kind of like the Tories have been blamed for Brexit. Everyone's like, absolutely, that was your fault, and they were a mess. And I think reform, the way Trump's going, it's kind of like, it's like maybe we shouldn't have these kind of people in charge, and they're starting to show signs of problems. and Labour's just getting on with things, and it's like, well, they seem kind of stable compared to the rest of them. So we're kind of, it's not like Labour are great over here, but it's just like compared to everyone else, they seem kind of a bit more sensible than the others. You know what I mean? So it does feel like we're not making great strides, but we're kind of edging in the right direction again. You know, not that I think these people are geniuses in Labour. There's quite a few of them I think are idiots, but the kind of thing was where it has kind of, we have got rid of some of the really toxic people. Now it's just like vaguely competent people in charge, which like that's probably the best you can hope for with politicians. Like vague competence with, you know, still embarrassing, but vague competence.
Yeah, at least they seem to be pretty good at the foreign politics currently, like how they are going to invest more in the military and stuff like that. But then in the domestic politics in Britain, of course, Labour has moved quite a lot towards the right as well, and long gone are the days of Jeremy Corbyn and stuff.
Yeah, Corbyn never worked. I wouldn't vote for him because I just thought you don't have any policies. I would like to vote for you, but I don't see even any policies that are going to work, which is the problem. You have to have, if you're going to do a leftist policy, you need to actually have planned it out to have a good policy. People say, oh, that could work, which he didn't really have. I mean, Labour don't really have it at the moment either. Just like, we're not the Tories, and we're vaguely competent. That's all they've really got. And yeah, they've moved towards the right a little bit. But it's kind of, it's better than what it was like a year ago. That's the best we can say about Britain, but at least it's going somewhere in the right direction. What is Finland like at the moment?
Well, pretty bad. We have an awful right-wing government, but when you look at the polls, it's like the left has been rising up. So it always goes like that. That we have a right-wing government, then left-wing government, then right-wing, and then left-wing. And
yeah. But I think that's healthy in a way because I think sometimes they need to correct each other and avoid either of them actually having any other ideas go mental on one side or the other. Because even though I'm left, I would not want communism either. That would probably be a bad idea. I mean, people like us would be straight to the death camps. You know, if there's a Siberia, we'd be there pretty quickly.
But communism is such a small group of people these days.
I know.
Like and there are so many different types of communism as well, just like terra capitalism. So.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I say either extreme or just like you don't want that. But yeah, no, I mean it's kind of a weird thing that we can't find a good centrist kind of policy for the people kind of, I think most people I know are kind of vaguely centrist. It's either centre left or centre right. Most people I know I would put in that kind of camp where you disagree in certain things, but it's never really that much for this. It's much more. We guess we disagree in that. When you look at the politics in the media, it's like we hate each other. We're going to kill each other. It's like I don't know anybody like that. It just don't. Do you know people who are really extreme in your daily life?
Well, not really, but I mean, I'm not a centrist. Definitely, I have lots of problems with centrism. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think I would call it politics of cowardice, because when you try to be in the middle and I agree with you a little bit here and a little bit there, and I think it's hard to have a cohesive politics if you are in the center. But of course, I prefer center to far right or whatever. But I'm definitely not a centrist myself. But
yeah, that's the thing is like from looking at history, having something combined in the middle seemed the logical thing. But there was never any kind of policies ever been created that actually work in the centre. It always feels compromised. And people get fed up with the centrists and they think, you're so compromised, you're so nothing. It becomes this thing where it becomes a centrist thing for a while, then it has to go either left or right because people are sick of the centre. Because there's problems with that, and then it becomes either left or right, and then it's like, we have to solve the problem of left or right because they've gone too far. It's like we've never really figured out anything that works. And maybe that's the way it should be. Maybe it's like there's no ideal way to do politics. You just have to improvise, and there's going to be bad times and good times. Maybe that's a healthy system going on. I don't know, but it does feel like we're always kind of improvising and making shit up and failing.
Well, I think left-wing policies do work if you just get to implement them, like free education, free healthcare.
Yeah, that stuff is obviously important, but the rich don't like paying for it. It's like, well, we have to pay for other people's education. How dare they?
Yeah, well, destroy the rich. That's how we get rid of that problem. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. It's like the government's never a policy of, you have to pay your fair taxes because you have more than anyone else. It's just the way things go. The way things are with the global economy now, people just move somewhere else. And it's like, so it's just a cheating system. And based the left wing, well, the centre, that say the left wing are basically globalists who like to move all over the world so they don't have to pay taxes. Just like the right wing. It's like anyone who's rich tends to be kind of scummy after a while.
Yeah, if they were good people, they would help the poor. But obviously, Elon Musk, it's good for your ego when you can say that I'm the richest guy in the planet. Yeah.
He does not care about helping the poor at all. Look at the stuff he's doing just now. That's like indefensible stuff he's doing.
And nobody does need that much money. I mean, you could still be a billionaire, but also like put most of your billions to help people.
Yeah, I mean, it's like at a certain point, how much better can you eat? And who needs tons of yachts and things? I mean, who cares? Yeah. Put the resources to help people, but no one is ever going to do that.
Yeah, if I sum up my politics, it's just that everybody should have a roof over their head, and everybody should get education and food, and everybody should be able to go after their dreams, but not in the expense of other people. So yeah.
So if it's a fascist going after the dreams, we should maybe say no to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm similar. Really, like just make sure people are protected. They're okay. They can. I don't get why nowadays, where we've so many resources over AI, with all this technology, and it's like everyone still has to work 9 hours a day for this and be miserable. And it's like, why? All this technology, you don't need to. You have to find something you like doing and with satisfaction with, and that'll make a better world. You don't need people don't need to be slave themselves by trying to. In Scotland, there's so many people who are doing these like phone jobs, but everyone's miserable. Like, phoning people up trying to sell them something. It's like, that's not good for anybody. The people getting the calls hate you. And I've done that job, and you hate yourself. And it's like, and there's so many industries like that. And it's like, well, why are human beings doing this themselves? It's like, money's not the most important thing, really. It's just insane.
Yeah. And again, the right-wing people say that it's freedom when Elon Musk has hundreds of billions of dollars, and then some people die of hunger. That's not freedom. Freedom is when all of us can have freedom. And again, I believe in freedom of speech and these things that the right claims to believe in, even though they actually don't. But
no, they don't.
But it's also freedom to, again, that you have all the basic material needs covered for you, that you can do things and exist without worrying all the time.
Yeah, I just think we're an insane species, though. A certain percentage of us like to be in charge, and that's it. And it's just like they don't care about everyone else, and it's like just feeding their ego, and it's like it's so pathetic. It's just so pathetic. It's like, I mean, you look at Trump and you just think that's so pathetic. What his ambitions are and what he wants to do. It's everything there is just horrendously sad. And it's like, why does anyone think this is cool? And it's just basically because people are so like worn down and miserable. They think this is the solution to my problems. And it's like, no, the solution to problems are actually people giving you the right amount of money, not making you starve and beg to them.
Yeah, those people don't believe in anything. Like if quote unquote wokeness becomes very popular again, then they will go back to being woke because
Yes.
that will make them money. And then if the far right rises again, then they will go far right. Like Zuckerberg is a good example of this, that he has been a more of a kind of neoliberal, that kind of liberal progressive stuff, but now he's gone full on Trumpist. Yeah.
Well, you get that in everyday life as well. People seem to move back and forward depending on what the political thing is. They just don't want to be caught out. And it's like you don't really have any real opinions. You're just trying to fit in. And it's like it's not very interesting. But yeah, we've actually managed to go like 30 minutes without even talking about films at all. We needed half an hour to establish our.
Now we can talk about Rennie Harlin and politics in his films.
I actually saw a Rennie Harlin film recently, The Adventures of Fort Fielding.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's not very good, but it is an interesting mess. So that's the first note I had actually was about how films avoid politics, but there's politics implied in the behaviour and the worldview of the characters. So they say, don't be political in films, but most films tend to have politics in the implication of the characters and what they believe in. And it comes across the films, like if you look at American film, there's lots of American values. And it changes with who is in charge at the time, but the politics are there all the time. And the same way if you look at our country with politics, if they're like a country that's has certain fascist tendencies, that'll come through in their films as well, and what they like to have in the films, what they don't like to have in the films. Like if you look at the like Nazi Germany did all these happy films where they were mass murdering people, and it's almost like they want a kind of cover story for what they are. Where America always does cover stories like we're good guys who are trying to solve the rights of the people, even though their government has done horrendous acts to various countries over the years. And the films, if you point that out, the films are communist or something, are viewed as communists. And it's just like a weird thing. It's like, we don't want to talk politics, but everything's political in the films, but it's treated as common sense rather than like that's a political view. Does this make sense?
Yeah, in the end, like again, all films, just like all art, is political in a way or another. But many people reduce politics to being just about like men in suits talking about like foreign policy. But politics is absolutely everywhere. Like I mentioned in one of my own podcasts once recently that even drinking water can be political if you drink the water from a Nestle bottle, and they are one of the most evil companies in the world. So even that's a political act, because every people are political beings, and the directors who make these films are political beings. So of course their views will come up in the films some way or another.
Yeah, there's also the studios behind them, or the advertising agencies behind them, all are political and have their political views. Like studios and advertising agencies, they donate to politicians, and then they switch to other politicians because they realise the politicians they originally financed were lost. It's like, oh, we better go to the other side, which you're seeing now with Facebook and all the rest of it. And it's like they're just trying to keep up, and it's like the politics are influencing every little movement, which means the fads change instantly in the advertising, the films. Which at the moment we've got all these films that have came from like what they viewed as a woke era, like the Disney stuff, like that new Snow White film. And then in a year or two, it'll all be like probably kind of very right-wingish tendencies around the films, like individualism and stuff like that. That all probably the most popular things until it's like, yeah, there's downsides to that too. It's going to be like this. Like we can't talk about politics, but we can always have it there in the background somewhere and how people interact. And it kind of frustrates me when people don't actually notice that's going on. Really, because it's so important to realize that's actually going on. Like It's like how they treat the characters is political.
Yeah, even those like stupid American movies that don't really have any themes about them, but they still have politics in them, like how they portray the American dream, for example. That's a common thing in American films, and
Yes.
how they portray nuclear family, or how they portray like the police. Like for example, in the Body Cop movies, we root for the police, even though we know that the American police is murdering people without any reason, and they are very incompetent. So it's kind of like, I think there's that word propaganda. So that's like cop propaganda.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's hard to make a cop film now without making them scumbags, because it's like there've been so many. I mean, in Britain, they still get the good cop thing because they have all these murder mysteries, and that's the way to do it. It's like it's a murder mystery. So if it's like if the show's like a show about corruption, they can make the cops bad. Or these cops are bad. These are bad cops. But if it's like a murder mystery, they're still good cops and blah blah blah, and it's like you're just trying to adjust to suit yourself. But in Britain, there's still a bit of, and you see that in like other countries, all these crime dramas you get all around the world. It's like it's the way to have a good cop, basically not have them basically be racist scumbags who brutalize people all the time. It's like, oh, they're a detective, they're thinking police or something. It's like, so it saves you from having to look at what a lot of police actually are. Not all of them. I mean, I wouldn't say every policeman I've ever run into has been horrible. It's just like, there's some are good and some aren't.
Yeah, and I think, again, police in many of the European countries are definitely more competent than in America.
That's not a high bar, though.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, this is a country who keeps on getting caught out. Cops keep getting caught out doing absolutely horrible racist shit on camera. It's like, you've got a camera on you. Are you not thinking? It's just insane. But yeah, no, but it's like, again, it's like the politics are always implied by the genre, what they're doing. It's like, but the funny thing is, I saw the new Captain America film recently, and it's meant to be a political thriller with no politics involved. It's like there's no political point of view in that film at all. It was so forgettable that it's a few weeks after I've seen it, I'm like, I cannot remember anything about that film. There was nothing that landed, because it was like, it was scared of having political view. It was just like, well, we've seen these other political films, and we're going to take off some of the conventions, but we're not actually going to look into why they were made and what beliefs the people who made them have. It just, it becomes a genre in itself. And it's like, yeah, there's a few corrupt people, but the good guys will save you. And it's like, that's not, a real political thriller usually ends with depression and your hero dead. Just like real life.
Yeah, I just got reminded that I saw these ridiculous comments from Star Wars fans recently who said that why did they have to make Star Wars about politics? But it was always about politics. The Empire is like a fascist empire, and
yeah, I know it's like
always been politics.
Yeah, it was made by a guy who grew up in the 60s. Even if he's doing films for children, they're like there are implied politics, even though he's not like stamping out saying, oh, look at this. It's like the Empire is so Nazi. It's incredibly Nazi. And if you actually look at the prequels, it's about a democracy becoming a dictatorship, which may be happening in America right now.
Yeah.
It's like so Revenge of the Sith might be the most political film at the moment.
Yeah.
Unintentionally.
And the prequels are a good example of what people think that politics is. That it's just people in rooms talking, and that's politics. That's like the only meaning of politics to these people, when they don't realize that, again, like we said, politics is everywhere.
Yeah. And the funny thing with those films is the people talking in rooms all the time, they can never get anything done in those films. It's like, yeah, these people are useless.
Yeah.
That's why you're bored watching them, because they don't get anything done ever.
It's just like in real life. So.
Yeah. They're just there. Those things are just there so like, why does everyone hate the politicians in these films? Because they're useless.
I
And
mean,
you kind of
politicians in real life are even worse. Like, I would
Yeah.
rather have Jar Jar Binks as the president of the United States than Trump. So.
yes. Well, he did start the Clone Wars, though.
Yeah. And there are those theories that maybe he is like the most powerful Sith Lord and stuff. Like
yes.
even more powerful than Palpatine.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing is politics do. If you come up for something, there are going to be political elements to you, but there's the actual absence of political thing does not mean absence of politics. It just means like you're too cowardly to see out what you're doing. Because I mean, if you look at a lot of American films in the 50s and 60s, they're so obviously right wing. In the 80s, they were publicly right wing. With the Reagan era, it was like it was so hard to miss. They were so right wing. They were, they were campy as hell, and unknowingly homoerotic in so many ways. When look at all those buddy movies, come on. Something's going on there.
Yeah, the only thing I miss about those 80s mainstream films is the homoeroticism. Yeah.
Yes.
Like in Roadhouse and stuff.
Yeah, and all those guys with muscles oiled up. Come on. Yeah. You know what audience you're going for.
Yeah. Like all the Van Damme movies. Like,
yeah.
He was so gay in them. Like, yeah.
I know. But
or
yeah,
even Rocky 4, that's obviously a very political movie, but when how they shoot the muscles and the steroids going in, and, yeah.
I know. I mean, that's the thing. The only like obvious political film that was known was basically RoboCop, because it was like, this is all ridiculous. This is stupid. This is. They shot a guy up and made him a robot, and they made a satire on American Reaganism, and it's like actually, because what we noticed is that it took like sci-fi movies to actually point out how ridiculous American got to that point. Because if you look at a lot of the films of that era that last, you've got RoboCop, where They Live, which is a bit all rich people being aliens. Now it's like one of the iconic films of the 80s is like, yep, is he an alien? Look at all those They Live Trump things we've had.
Yeah, I often criticize Carpenter, but They Live is one that I really enjoyed. So.
Yes. I mean, if you look at the 90s, you had Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Which is so America's a fascist dictatorship movie. And look at them. I mean, that was what Verhoeven said was he wanted to do, because he's a lefty from Holland, he was like, he wanted to show how absurd the right-wing ideology was by making a film was like, I'll show you a right-wing America that works, but all it's good for is killing bugs. It's all it's good for. I still can't believe he actually called them Nazis to their face and didn't get it.
Yeah.
See, that's a real political film.
Yeah, but then on the other side, you have the Forrest Gumps and Saving Private Ryans that are like conservative wet dreams. Yeah.
I know. I mean, Forrest Gump's the spit. For me, that one is... I don't mind Saving Private Ryan. It's like, it's made from a certain era, from a certain director who watched these World War II movies. It's like, okay, I don't agree with this. I'd much rather watch the Terrence Malick film from the same era. But it's like, okay, I don't mind this one. It's not for me, but I don't mind it. But Forrest Gump annoys the hell out of me. It's like nails to chalkboard bad.
Yeah. No matter how stupid you are, the American dream will save you and you can become anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like his idiocy to cop is viewed as wisdom. The funny thing is, I just watched the new Mickey 17.
Yeah, the Parasite.
Yeah, and it was quite funny because its lead character is a complete moron. But that's a joke. It's like, it's not trying to make you think he's a wisdom. It's like, he's an idiot. He's a Baldrick level idiocy from Blackadder. He's like, they're having jokes about how stupid this guy is, and it's like, it's funny because it's political and it's saying, looking at the stupidity of people and the arrogance, and he just wins out by having a basic amount of decency, you know, but he's still a moron, and it's like that's so refreshing. Have a character who's a moronic, and they don't try and explain it like Forrest Gump and try and make it somehow noble. It's just no, he's still an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Is directors like Boone, I can't remember his name.
Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah, it's always a tune bit. It's always kind of as the. I'm halfway through and I realize I've forgotten the name. A lot of his films are satirical, but they actually create a sense of things are complicated, even though these people are obviously corrupt. There is some complications, even though you're not meant to agree with them. That's what a kind of grown-up film would do. Is like, this is the way the world is, and these are the problems of the world, and actually show it. Well, like kind of a very obvious kind of unsophisticated film would say, these are the ideals we wish you to follow, and let's not talk about any problems. And to me, I'm always kind of a bit wary about that. Or let's talk about drug problems as if it's a cop thing, it's a law enforcement thing, rather than it's a social thing of people need to be zoned out their mind to deal with daily life, which is really what it is about.
Yeah, and the war on drugs has completely failed, but then these films insist that, the police can solve everything,
Yeah. And I mean, but drugs are obviously a social issue. It's like, why do people take drugs? Because they're so miserable. That's why they take drugs. They are miserable in their lives because their lives have no meaning to them. That's it. Really. But it's the thing, and that's the product of capitalism. And that's the thing they're trying to say, oh, guns will solve this problem. Guns will not solve this problem. We've seen like 40 or 50 years of them try to solve it through guns, and it's not working. I mean, they should make everyone just watch The Wire. Just sit down, take 50 hours, watch The Wire, and you'll get a better idea of what's going on.
Yeah, I still haven't watched the whole show, only the first couple of seasons. But
yeah. Season 4's brutal. It's like the most brutal thing.
Yeah, I think I was a bit too young when I started watching it, so I now need to watch it when I'm older.
Yeah. I also watched his new one, We Own the City, all about the police corruption in the city, about how the corruption exists and how the politics do not deal with it at all, and how it makes matters worse and worse and worse each year, and how generations of cop become more and more corrupt. And it was like, again, it was utterly brutal, and of course no one talked about it because it was like, it's too obviously real, and it was like, oh, we can't talk about this. We can't discuss this because we might have to do something about it. And rather we would have fantasies about our policies will create something wonderful, which is just nonsense. Because we just seen the Trump thing just now, it's like he's all these weird fantasies, like getting rid of immigrants is going to solve our problems. No.
It will create more problems because the immigrants do all the quote-unquote bad jobs and stuff. So
I know there's that, and there's also you're creating a thing now with other countries looking at you as if to say they think we're scum. How dare they? And it makes the kind of xenophobia, which has always been there in America, seem so much worse than and it's just so out there. Just the racism is so out there now. It's like, yeah, they look down on you because you come from a country with less money and has problems, and they think you're worse than them because of that. And it's like, really?
And you also have to look, why are they moving? It's because America has screwed over their countries. Like they've bombed the Middle East, and they have like supported like military dictatorships in Latin America because they hate communists so much. So let's kill the communists and let's put the right wing in the power, like in Chile, for example. Yeah,
I know. And a lot of those things where it's people try to get basic human rights and are called, oh, you're communist. And it's like, most of those people were just socialists trying to get human rights. They weren't. Most of them would not have been communists if they weren't getting pushed towards that. And basically, Russia could just say to them, "Look how bad you're getting screwed over by these American-backed dictators." It's not exactly difficult to convince people who are starving that maybe communism and community-led actions better for you. Is it really?
And again, all communists aren't Stalinists. There are so many different forms of.
I know, it's just like,
communism,
yeah, there's going to be some lunatics there, but there's also a lot of it is more socialism than actual communism. It's just like, we want basic water supplies. We want a roof over our heads.
Yeah,
you know.
Education, healthcare, like how
Yeah.
radical it is to want those things. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's why China's doing a lot of work now in Africa. And people say, "Oh, it's a plot. It's a communist plot. They're trying to make everybody pro-Chinese." And it's like, yeah, well, maybe if you gave a shit about the Africans, they might like you better, rather than try to exploit them for diamonds and minerals. I mean, obviously, China's going to do that too, but if you do it with some decency, rather than cut the funding off so people are going to die horribly, they're going to like you better.
Yeah, at this point, I trust China more with foreign policy than America. So.
I don't trust any of them. I think China's dubious as hell, but America makes it so easy for them. I mean, I think China's got a lot of problems with obedience and things. I think they're.
Yeah.
I know you want them to have too much power, but I don't think you want America to have too much power either. I think it's the best case of try and give them money and give them help and let them figure it out themselves and make the mistakes. That's a healthy way to do it, I think. Because some places you're never going to be able to sort outside. I mean, look at what we did in Iraq and things. It's like, you can't sort some of these places. You just have to let them figure it out. Which means painfully watching them, what they're doing in Iran with all that kind of repression of like gay people and people who are unbelievers, and you just have to hope they figure it out. And because there's a lot of people in Iran who don't believe in that.
Yeah. Just like the many filmmakers of the country show us, because obviously they some of them have gone to prison because of their films and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's another note. I was making a bit of Iran and things. Is like people going to choose the films, and would American directors be as brave as our Western directors be as brave as them? I don't think so.
Yeah.
They just want their, the praise for doing something that's probably not that brave. Just give us a praise for pointing out some obvious injustice. Because a lot of time when I see like documentaries that are advertised from like Western directors, a lot of time it's like, is that it? Really? That all you've really got? It's not that interesting.
Yeah, they just aren't daring enough or unique enough usually. It's just they are too centrist, you could say, oftentimes.
I think they're just too spoiled a lot of the time. They're just they don't want to rock the boat because they know basically they've got a pretty good thing, so don't get blackballed. They don't want to get blackballed in the industry. Maybe they don't think they're being treated very well, but they want to be blackballed in the industry by being too like political. It's like, this is a slight injustice we need to deal with. This is something we have to think about. And then, but a lot of times they don't have the actual intellectual capacity to actually do something that's political and interesting about the subject in a way that would actually cause problems. It would just be like, oh, this is a simple injustice, and have a lot of like, music to make the point to say, oh, you should be moved now by this. And it's like, really, that's it?
Yeah, lots of the center-left liberal types, they show that kind of false sense of empathy or that type of that it's not like they actually don't want to liberate people, but they just want to kind of seem like they have empathy for these people when they actually don't.
Yeah, I much prefer the ones that are just like, this is what's going on, and I'm reporting, and that's it. And you can say, okay, that's fine. I saw one called Father and Sons a few years ago, which is basically about Syria and how the generations of fathers run to the sons and their values run to the sons, and how being a war creates a thing where young boys who started out full of life become killers. It's like, and the good thing with that film was it didn't try and be the sentimental crap. It was just like, this is what happens, and it's horrible. That's what happens, and that was much more of an effective film because it was just like you instantly think, yep, this is exactly what happens, and it's horrific. But that's just the way it is. I much prefer those kind of films than the sentimental garbage.
Yeah, that really applies to all the war films as well. That again, all the American ones with like emotionally manipulative music and American flags waving and tears in the eyes. Like that's not very good filmmaking. But then the films like again the human condition and stuff that aren't so sentimental are better.
Yeah, how crazy war is. Like it's quite interesting to. Have you ever seen The Big Red One? The Samuel Fuller film.
No, I haven't seen that one.
Well, that's the thing is, if you actually get the disc of it, the Blu-ray disc, is you see the two different cuts. You see the cut that the studio made of the film after he'd finished it, and they threw him off the film. And then there's the longer cut based on the footage he'd shot. And the thing is, they never managed to totally make it a pro-American film, but they made it a bit more sentimental, and it was still a good, decent film where it was about these four guys and a sergeant going through the war. And they start out in Africa and end up in D-Day, liberating the death camps. But what they cut out was all the stuff showing how insane the war was and how crazy it was and how funny and darkly funny it was and how human the thing was. And it was like they tried to make it a normal war film rather than a film about how the craziness of trying to survive a war, which I think they were trying to avoid because that was like, hey, that's not comfortable. Like the fact that these people are all going a bit mad and these are the survivors, and it just made this thing where it was like, it was like a political statement of trying to cut it back and try and take out all the craziness of it because it's based on Samuel Fuller's experiences of the war as a wartime correspondent. Going round with all these soldiers during the war, and it just sort of brings up to me the way Americans prefer to see war, which is compartmentalized and also a mythology. This is how people behave in a war. This is how you react to violence, rather than, oh, violence is horrible, you should try and avoid it as much as you can. Which creates the thing about the stuff with guns and things. Oh, we love guns and blah blah blah. It's all mythology. It's not like these are horrible things that cause lots of damage.
Yeah, and it's disgusting how they always make a war to be positive in a way that it's all about brotherhood. Like, look at these, they are dying for each other, and yeah, they love each other so much. Or it's all about heroism. Look at these acts that these great men have done. Even though you look at those, many of those soldiers were rapists and brutal, awful people. Like they weren't heroes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. There is brotherhood in war to survive a horrible situation, but you should just show it rather than mythologize it, because it's like, yeah, because they're trying to survive a horrible situation. They're going insane. You're going to bond with people who are in the same situation as you, but it's survival from horror. It's not something that's, it should be mythologized as something extremely positive. It's like, you're still taking these people and turning them mad. Look at all the PTSD you get from soldiers. It's generation after generation, a lot coming back and can't fit back into society through the violence I've seen. It's like, in America cannot deal with that. It's like, that's something else. We can't talk about that.
Yeah, and of course we should be grateful that, again, the Allies beat the Nazis, for example, but we shouldn't, again, mythologize it or make it to be all about brotherhood and heroism, but we should see it as a big human tragedy that we should try to move past from and try to be different in the future. Yeah,
but that's the thing is, what the Allies did was heroic, but it was also horrific. And they want the heroism, but they do not want the horror. They don't want the human failure of what they have to Europe. They only want one side of it. They don't want both sides. And that's kind of, you need both sides to really make it work. But it's kind of, yeah, and they don't want to talk about the compromise of the military and all the different injustices in the military and all the selfishness of certain people in the military. They don't want any of that stuff. They'll take the kind of fantasy or the myth they're trying to create.
Yeah, they should also know that Nazis were actually inspired by Americans and what they did to Native Americans and how they enslaved black people and everything. And obviously there were some American companies like Ford that funded the Nazis as well and stuff. So.
Yeah, you don't bring all that stuff up there. That makes them uncomfortable. They like it simple, but it's by trying to make it simple, it means you're actually ignoring the horror and putting safeguards in to stop it happening again. You much rather have a sentimentality. I mean, if you look at what sold after the war, it was all fantasies about the war. Because you came out from something that was horrific, and now you're trying to create a fantasy of it wasn't that bad, it was actually helpful to you. It's like, well, that takes you into more wars, like where you get Korea and Vietnam and Day of Horror shows. It's like, war should not be seen as particularly wonderful. It should be seen as pretty horrific.
Yeah. That World War II was basically the only justified war that America did, or participated in. So.
Yeah. I know that came from the mess of World War One, which was a total clusterfuck. Yeah, because a lot of failures come from the earlier successes, and a lot of successes come from earlier failures, and it's like it's all a mess. And I think a lot of people want a simplistic view of life. This is the safe way to get through life, and it's like life's kind of crazy. It's not really like that. But I think if you create myths yourself, you can get into lots of problems. So one thing I was going to I made notes on was basically how I think we kind of touched on it earlier, was how a lot of like films use genre films to cover what they're trying to say and just say, oh, it's just a silly genre film. We'll just make a few jokes, and then years later you come and go, all right, they were criticising the current administration. I mean, when I talked about Starship Troopers, but also was thinking about the Italians with the westerns and giallos in the 60s and 70s. And if you look at the westerns, or the Italian westerns, they are so cynical in politics and so cynical with the leaders. It's like, because it's all based on the fact that they lived through Mussolini and then the kind of various political upheavals in the 50s with American interests and Russian interests, because Italy was kind of the center point of like Cold War. And it was just this kind of so they used their genres to do all these cynical films about how much of a mess the world was. So I just thought it was quite interesting how politics can float through genres, because there's a lot of Italians who are actually very politically active who this was their day job. So it just was infused into their day job. And a way you don't get anymore, because nowadays you're a genre film and it's so they say, oh, we're being political, but really you're not, because you're coming from a safe environment, so it's just basically a meaningless film.
And even films like Night of the Living Dead and stuff were very political back in the day.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like in olden days the political films were political, and then from the 80s onwards they became less political. It's almost like we're just going to enjoy the violence and not think about it too much and not be political about it. And it's become this thing where now any sort of political thing is like, any side of political activism is like you're woke, or you're a right-wing lunatic, or you're this, you're that, you're that, you're that. And it's like, because people are scared of having conversations, really, because it's like you have to type everybody. Like, how many films that have been called woke that are not woke at all?
Yeah, but
There's quite a
okay, these white people just hate seeing black people in screens. So that's basically what when they talk about wokeness, that is what it is. So, oh God, Harry Potter now has a black actor. I'm gonna throw a temper tantrum even though I'm a middle-aged man. Look how masculine I am when I'm crying about Harry Potter films and stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't care less what the race of the people are. I mean, I get annoyed sometimes when they do history and they try to change the races there a little bit. But if it's typed as this is a fantasy, it's like, oh, who cares? But if it's like we're trying to be realistic, it's like, okay, maybe you should be careful. Because a lot of time you want to see the power structures at play in historical dramas to show how horrible they actually were there. It's not to do with anything beyond the reality that people need to know about what people did in the past. But most of the time it's like, yeah, it's just stupid shit. It's like, who cares if someone's black or white or whatever? It's like, can they act? Can they make good films? I mean, most of the films that I like are Asian. Yeah, really. I know you're the same. It's like, we're both into Asian films. It's like, those films are so much better than other films.
Yeah, especially in the past few decades. When America doesn't produce anything great anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing is we love Asian films. It's like some of my favorite directors are Asians. It's like my favorite current living working director is Shinya Tsukamoto, who's not even the mainstream of Japan. You know, it's like a lot of it's just ignorance. Is like, oh, our stuff is great. And it's like, no, it's not. It's really not. It's mediocre. And you're complaining about stuff that's like, why are you complaining about Star Wars and Star Trek? That stuff's mediocre now anyway. No one cares. You don't need to do videos to tell people it's mediocre. They're not watching it because it's crap.
And some people like keep hate watching all of that stuff. That I need to watch it even though I'm not gonna like it.
Yeah, I watched the first season of Rings of Power, realized it was crap, and stopped watching it. And even that, when I was laughing at the film, I was laughing at Rings of Power, the first viewing. It was so bad. It's like everyone knows when something's crap. It's just it says. Who cares?
And it's not crap because it's woke, but it's crap because it's made by billionaires who want to make money. So,
or they've hired people who are not very good writers who just do what they're told, and they said, "Oh, put this in, put that in," because we're told it's popular these days. And it's like, yeah, it's the same with, oh, let's do a dog movie in the 50s, let's do a Lassie movie. You're doing it because you're told to do it.
Yeah.
And the people in charge have no taste. You know, it's if you actually were rebellious, you would be making a lot less money. You might have more self-regard, but you know, you're doing this to make money. That's it. It's like, yeah, how can you expect it to be any good if you're just basically doing product? You can tell from most films, it's like you look at the trailer and you go, "Nah, don't bother." You know, you can tell it's trashy. I like some trashy stuff, but I know what I'm watching.
Yeah, I kind of stopped watching American mainstream films after Avengers Endgame, basically.
That was it. You just stopped. I still watch some of them, but I can have fun. But some terrible ones. I mean, the one that got me most last year was Gladiator 2, because it was so dumb, and it was like you're thinking, I'm so easy when it comes to like historical stuff set in Rome. I'm quite an easy person to enjoy it because I like how trashy it is. You have to go out your way to make a really bad one to get me annoyed, and this one managed it because it was so dumb. And I tried to be political in no real way. It was just like, this is so embarrassingly stupid.
And the right wingers went crazy about it. How can you have a black person there, even though there were black people? And then how can you have rap?
They're right next to Africa. They're next to Africa.
And the Roman Empire went to like North Africa.
Yes. Yeah, they start in Africa. that wasn't the film's problem. The film's problem was it was boring and stupid and badly written and badly directed and badly everything.
Yeah, and it's a fiction film, so who cares anyway?
Yeah.
And then also in like the trailer, they used like rap music. So they didn't have rap music in ancient Rome, but they didn't have Hans Zimmer scores in Rome either. So
Yeah. Films are fiction. It's you're creating nonsense from nothing. And it's like, what kind of nonsense are you creating? And then Gladiator 2 was nonsense.
I think the first one is overrated too. So.
Yeah, I told you, I kind of enjoy it, but it's overrated. Basically, I like a lot of supporting actors like Oliver Reed, but it's kind of, it's okay, that's it. But as soon as they try to do any politics, it's nonsense. You're just there for the action scenes and some hammy actors.
But I way rather watch the Wolfgang Petersen film Troy than like Gladiator.
Oh, that's not very good either.
Yeah, but it's fun.
I know, I'm a purist because I like Greek mythology, and that's like, they took out the gods from the Trojan War. How dare you?
Yeah.
I'm like, Troy's not a good subject with me. Troy's like, and the annoying thing is I've just bothered to do a review of it, and I know I'm going to be ranting. So that's a warning for something coming soon.
I was just talking with a friend recently that I'd rather rewatch Troy than watch the new Nolan movie Odyssey when it comes out.
No, I'm kind of intrigued with that because I love the Odyssey, but seeing photos of that, it's like, okay, it's a different Odyssey from what I would imagine Odyssey. So it's like, okay, it's just a version of it. There's so many versions of Odyssey, I don't really get that bothered. But Troy was a big bugbear for me, especially as Brad Pitt as Achilles. He's like 20 years too old and he can't fight. He's made of Achilles, and it's like, what the hell?
Yeah, rather just read the Iliad.
Yeah. Although I kind of was, I warmed to Brad Pitt a little bit later on because he more or less made the same comments. Like, he was forced into the film and he didn't think he was very good. And I was like, oh, at least he knows. Like, he was.
I remember I saw in the cinema the remake of Clash of the Titans, and yeah, I loved that one a lot then, but yeah, not anymore. And then there was the sequel, Wrath of the Titans as well.
I didn't mind those ones, although I'm a purist for the Harryhausen one, but it's like, I watched them recently and it was like, they're not actually they're stupid, but they're fun. I don't really mind those ones.
What was that one? Immortals, was that a similar film as well?
Yeah. But that's the thing. I mean, you look to Asia, they tend to have political stuff in their films. A lot of weird, and there's just interest in the world, and actually saying you don't have the political viewpoint. You can just have a view of the world, and it informs the film, and it creates a film that's actually not based on some sort of dogma about how you see the world and how the world should be. It's like, it's about people, really, and you can see contradictions in people and things. And that's the big thing. Is like, a lot of films are almost political by not having that. Just making it look like robots.
Yeah, the Asian directors are willing to challenge the audience, and they don't really care what you're gonna think about it. So they have that more authentic mindset when they make the films.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you watch even a bad Asian film. Sometimes it's like I've developed an appreciation for the Chinese propaganda stuff because it's just an American one, but it's China, and you're the villain. Like, I love the characters in any Asian film, like the White Devil. It's just like great. It's like the things that someone should tell them. The White Devil actually sounds cool. It's not really an insult. It sounds cool.
And then there are the films when you have like an American hero in Asia, like The Forbidden Kingdom.
Yeah.
And Last Samurai.
Yeah, that's I have an affection for people films where the guys go over and deal with the Yakuza, like The Challenger or the Yakuza, with old American actors. Because they tend to hire like grizzled actors for those ones, and they're ridiculous films, but they're kind of enjoyable, even though they're not as good as the originals. Yeah. But yeah, the white savior thing is kind of funny because it's so silly. But I'm a sucker for it, but it's still silly.
Yeah, I love the Forbidden Kingdom so much.
I've never seen that one. It's just like one of those ones that's like, but everyone's got those films. It's like, I cannot defend this film, but I will watch it again and again and again, quite happily.
And the Forbidden Kingdom has Jet Li fighting against Jackie Chan, so how could it get any better than that?
Yeah. But yeah, no, so the takeaway from this podcast is go watch Asian films. They're way cooler.
Yeah, I pretty much only watch Japanese films these days.
Yeah, it's also the thing is when you go and you watch like a Revette film or a film from France from the 80s, you have to adjust your mental state to like, okay, they expect you to actually pay attention. I have to actually sort of zone throughout my kind of modern filmmaking watching approach and say, I have to pay attention now. The pace differently, they're shot differently. I have to actually like, I'm dealing with a grown up here, so the way they're done is less propagandized. So you actually have to kind of pay attention. And it's kind of funny because you have to be in the right mood for now because you think I've been so brainwashed by this other garbage that I really shouldn't be. And you have to kind of chuck it out. And that's a sad thing you have to do. Like, I have to develop taste to watch a good film again. It's like, how bad have we got?
Yeah, that's why I don't brainwash myself with all the American garbage anymore.
I know. I try and be up in the world, but I do find I'm watching a lot more like, older films and stuff. It's just like when you look at all the stuff released in a year, I'm like, I am seeing less and less every year because it's just like I can't really face watching some of this stuff. It's just like it just looks crap. And I'd much rather, if I'm going to watch a genre film, I'd much rather watch a kung fu movie from the Shaw Brothers or something, which might be ridiculous, but it's going to be fun.
Yeah, or even with the new genre films, rather watch a Korean thriller than an American one. So.
Yeah, some of the American ones this year have been pretty, or last year. Like the big one that was meant to be amazing last year was Strange Darling. And I watched it, was that it? Is that it? That's all I'm getting.
I mean, the one American genre film from the last few years that I've been curious about is the horror film like about Winnie the Pooh. I don't remember what it's called, but that looks kind of fun.
Apparently they're awful. They're really bad. I saw another one that was meant to be political called Barbarian. It was like terrible. It was like this is. They can't even make like political genre films anymore, like they used to do. I mean, remember George Romero did like political films that were genre films or Wes Craven. It's like those days are long gone. Now they have to make a point again and again and have a terrible plot. It's like,
yeah, instead of Barbarian, watch Conan the Barbarian. So.
Yes, I watched that recently. Actually, it was still a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll be watching the sequel soon for the podcast. I used to love it as a kid, but I haven't seen since. And then we are going to do Red Sonja at some point because it kind of relates to the Conan.
Those are not good films. Good luck. Speaking as someone who does a bad film weekly, good luck because you're going to need it. And I've seen some real trash this year already, but I think sometimes watching the really bad ones, you actually learn how to spot some of the nonsense what is in the bad films. But also, it's quite interesting to know what not to do. So it makes you appreciate the good films even more, I find.
And I still love all the 80s action heroes type of stuff. So.
Yeah, even though the complete propaganda. Like I did a video years ago about right-wing propaganda nonsense, like Who Dares Wins, the Wild Geese, all these like British ones that were absolutely awful, but I watched them as a kid, and I still can happily watch them even though they're absolute nonsense. You know.
And still one of my absolute favorites is the John Travolta movie From Paris with Love, which is like full-on American propaganda.
Yeah, but from France, from Luc Besson.
Yeah. Such like xenophobic stuff about like the war on terror and stuff. Yeah.
I know, it's like, yeah. whenever they do the war on terror, it's always going to be really stupid. So it's like the best war on terror film ever made. I've got it written down here. Is Four Lions, because it's about the Islamic terrorists, but they're rubbish. They're just rubbish at everything. It's Chris Morris one, where you're watching these guys try to be terrorists and they're failing because they're just morons. And it's like, because it's based on research with actual Islamic terrorists. And it was like how most of these terrorists completely fail. Like they spend so much money in trying to make it the war on terror look horrific, and it's like most of them aren't very good. And that's a real political film, of course, barely released. Then Chris Morris made The Day Shall Come, which is about the remember the FBI was setting up these guys to look like terrorists when they weren't in the 2010s. Did you hear that?
No, I haven't.
Oh, well, basically, it's a film about this where the FBI needed to justify their budget post 9/11. And after the Iraq War had happened, they kind of needed to create these terrorists, homegrown terrorists, to justify their budget. So what they were doing was actually creating these lunatics who were just the kind of street loonies that you see and don't take seriously, and then try and give them money to make them look like actual terrorists and then arrest them and send them to jail, just to justify a budget. So they made a film about it, and it was barely released because it was actually about something that the Americans were actually doing, and they didn't want to actually make a film with this or have this film be seen by anybody because it was like it made them look bad. And it's like that's a film that just doesn't get made because it's like, oh no, it's against our propaganda of these terrorists being guys who can, do these amazing things, and we have to stop them. It's not like 24, where they can spend a whole season on one terrorist action. In fact, in these ones, the terrorist action fails by incompetence. And we've been incompetent because we're crap at our jobs.
Yeah, one could make endless amounts of movies about the terrible things that America has done.
I know. But the thing is, Americans would pay for that. They're really selfish that way.
Yeah, greatest country in the planet, yeah.
Yeah.
If a poor person gets cancer, yeah, he will go into like thousands of dollars of debt and maybe die because he cannot get health care. Greatest country in the world.
Yeah, no. Yeah, they're not very good with self-criticism. I mean, it's one thing America is not good at. They'd rather the myth than of being great than actually look into all the problems. Because if they had to pay for some of those problems, they wouldn't have as much money to attack the rest of the world, which is why they don't want to pay for those problems. Because it's like if the profit was less, they had to actually kind of work out to deal with their own people. It'd probably better for the rest of the world, to be honest, and their own people. But they like the myth of superiority and being vulnerable, which is not very good.
Yeah, even country like Cuba, like that America has brutalized, like they have a better healthcare system and better literacy rates than America and stuff.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's the thing. There's just always so much propaganda about. I mean, America does love a country when you can actually prove they're worse than them. I mean, they really go to town then. It's like, see, they're actually worse than us. But there's. Or they make friends with them like Russia. That's the most embarrassing thing ever. After all those years, right, of anti-Cold War, anti-Russia for decades, and now they're sucking up to Russia. It's like, it's so pathetic.
And even like in Florida with Ron DeSantis, like you cannot even teach slavery in universities anymore. Like you need to say that slavery helped the black people. You cannot say that white people enslaved black people. Like you cannot tell facts anymore. Like
that's so sad. It's so fearful of your own sins and what you did. This is what happened. This is how horrible we were in the past. So it should be a warning to you. Do not do this stuff. This is horrible. Because all that stuff is just fear-based. It's just like, I cannot take reality. It's the same way as you've got like those people who deny the Holocaust. It's like, you cannot take the reality of people, what people are like. it's just pathetic. And a lot of the political avoidance has just been people being pathetic, which is something we're very good at. As a species, we're amazingly stupid.
And there are those pathetic people who think that, like white men, for example, who take it personally if you say that white people enslaved black people. They offended themselves even though they didn't do it.
I know, yeah. It's like, you didn't do it, your ancestors did it. You probably would do it if you had a chance. Then justify it to yourself. But you didn't personally do it. The same way black people were not personally enslaved, their ancestors were. And they're still going on about like giving money to people whose ancestors were enslaved. It's like, these people weren't enslaved though. They've been enslaved by some of your policies about funding different areas. That's what you should really be looking at, is like, why is your fund for inner city so bad? That's a now modern slavery that you won't look into. You'd rather just talk about the myth of of your idea of the past and the reality of the past, and deny the reality of the past to avoid actually thinking what you're doing presently. Which is, again, kind of sad. Well, I think this has been a very anti-American podcast.
Well, I'm a very anti-American person. So.
Yeah. I think it's hard not to be at the moment the way America's gone. I mean, there's been lots of stuff for decades that have led up to this. It's not like it's just, just happened. The same way, you wouldn't like to be a Russian at the moment dealing with Putin and his nonsense, or a Ukrainian, because there's just lots of idiots taking on the world. There's just, violence for stupid reasons, which is things that in filmmaking people are uncomfortable seeing. Because it makes you have to think about things rather than just say, oh, this is a nice little fantasy of look how they solved that drug problem.
Yeah, sometimes I just want to move to a forest and be by myself and not think about this stuff at all. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I can zone in, zone out. It's like, at a certain point, it's like, I'm just going to get depressed. I'm just not going to think about this. There's no way. Everyone's like that, though. I think everyone's like, I can only take so much. And actually watching a kind of film that's just silly is just a good way to avoid thinking about it. So we're our own worst enemies.
Yeah, just watch those Rennie Harlin films and stuff.
Yeah, but not Avengers of Fort Fairlane. Don't want to watch that one.
But Cutthroat Island and The Covenant and Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Prison.
Yeah.
Cliffhanger. Legend of Hercules.
Yeah, not that one. Yeah, rather watch Troy and Clash of the Titans. Yeah,
the worst Rennie Harlin film I've seen is actually Exorcist Beginning. That's appalling. That one's so bad.
Yeah, but still better than the Schrader one. But yeah.
No way in hell. You shut it. If I could feature across screen and slap you for that, I would. Yeah. So, is there anything we've missed? Really?
Well, we haven't talked about Scorsese yet. But...
And I think we can avoid Scorsese this time. I was thinking politically, I mean, we covered Cuba a lot in the last one. Cuban films and Russian films and stuff in the last one a bit more. So I think you can go back to the last one for that stuff. If you want, if anyone wants.
Yeah, although I have to say that again, my mind has changed a lot since then, so I don't kind of support many of the ideas that I said there now.
Yeah. We're hoping we do this next time you'll be a full-on communist who disavows everything you've said in this one. Yeah, says that was nonsense. We do enough of them, and hopefully you'll get through every political point of view. What do you think?
Yeah, it probably will happen. Or maybe I'll go back to being right-wing or a coward centrist or something.
Yeah. I think after maybe your late 20s, you've actually kind of settled in whatever you're going to be. I mean, my opinion has not changed much since I was about 25. It's like it evolves a little bit, but it ends up kind of going back to where it was. It's always kind of, I think at some point you're kind of shaped.
Yeah, I think at this point I'm pretty shaped. So
Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed this. It's an hour and a half I've been talking politics. That's enough to get us cancelled.
yeah, we'll see how people will react to this, because obviously now being right wing is so trendy, so they will hate our left wing nonsense.
Yes, I know. I don't mind. I could not care less.
Yeah.
Really. It's just two people talking. And that's the whole idea of free speech. You can talk and people can take it or leave it. That's it. And it doesn't offend anybody. But except for the people who are really sensitive to crybabies. So if you're offended by this conversation, you're a crybaby. Is that good enough?
Yeah, and of course, most people just watch the first 2 minutes, so they won't hear our whole talk. So.
Oh, well. So, thank you for coming along doing this. I hope anyone who watched this will enjoy it. That's us.
Yeah.
Bye,
Thanks for
everybody.
watching.
Yes.
Bye.